So a number of you have asked for updates on Dolly, our pig, and her delivery. And instead of trying to write it all out, I figured I'd tell it to you. Hopefully I won't chase too many rabbits because I'm extremely tired, to say the least. So let's see. She was due on Monday, but her sister delivered a day early. And so we were watching her, and on Saturday evening she started showing signs of labor. And so we stayed home on Sunday. We watched her all through the night, checking on her, and the symptoms seemed to progress, so we ended up staying awake. So I was the midnight to 2 shift, and then one of the guys was from 2 to 4, the next was from 4 to 6, and then I got up at 6 to check on her. And so we were watching her through the night, stayed home from church on Sunday, and it's like Sunday evening, all the symptoms seemed to disappear. And it was like, well, what's going on here? And Monday, she didn't really have any symptoms at all. So I'm just guessing it was a false labor, and kind of surprised at that. But okay, so we watched her, and Natasha helped out Monday night because the three of us had, Victor, Sasha and I had been up 2 nights in a row, and so she was out there checking on Dolly up until 11:30, and I went out there at midnight, and Natasha had sent me a note that said that she was kind of breathing hard, and I got out there and she was shaking and tremoring, and she was in full labor. So I got out there, and she had the first one just after midnight, and things progressed. You know, sometimes it was like 10 minutes between piglets, sometimes it was 40 minutes, but by just after 6 o'clock in the morning, she had 12. So that was really cool. And she had given off 3 placentas. One, I think, was just an empty one. I'm sorry, just 2 placentas. So we were waiting for her to give off the 3rd placenta after the last 2 piglets, and it didn't come, and it didn't come, and that can be a real problem. Cause an infection, can kill a pig. So I was getting pretty concerned about it. We were checking on her all throughout the day. We tried, I think, 3 feedings with Mom. The first one is really not a feeding because the piglets are just kind of looking for anywhere that they can suck on, and they don't find her teats very well. The second one, a few of them started latching on. The third one, it's like there was no milk. Any milk that she had dried up, and she was just really lethargic, and I stopped the feeding and was just really concerned about her. So I started hand feeding the piglets, and we kind of used some condensed milk with some other milk and some water, and fed them twice. And I went out there to do the next feeding at 6 p.m. and she had 3 placentas and 3 stillborn, and they were big. And it was just like, oh my gosh, no wonder she wasn't wanting to feed and didn't have the milk. Her body was still in the process of delivery, but she was so exhausted she had no energy to push at all. The first 4 or 5 that she delivered, she kind of would cry out, and I've never seen a pig do that, so I was just kind of concerned for her. So we cleaned that up, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do a hand feeding again. But first I fed her. I'd given her water earlier in the day, kind of poured it into her mouth because she was laying on the side. But this time I put it in a dish, and she kind of put it in her mouth and almost drank it like a cup. And then I gave her some food, which she ate up the whole time. And I just kind of kept scraping it near her mouth because she was laying on her side eating it. She hadn't gotten up. She hadn't eaten any breakfast at all, or any meals at all, since breakfast yesterday. So very, very weak. So fed her, gave her a lot of water, 2 bowls of water, and then went ahead and hand fed the piglets again. And we use a syringe. We give them about 10 milliliters of this milk mixture. Then she seemed to be revived a little bit, and I thought, okay, for the 8:30 feeding, maybe we'll try and feed with her again. I go out there, sure enough, she's got another 2 placentas and another stillborn, again, a very big one. I have never, ever seen that. Most pigs have 2 placentas, and that's it. I have come across one pig that had 3. Her sister, Lulu, aborted twice, and we thought that maybe she had lost all of her piglets, but then she delivered 2 full placentas of piglets. So this is the most I have ever seen. And she just had no energy to put out these last piglets. So when I was trying to pick up the last stillborn and use a shovel and a pitchfork kind of to scoop it up along with the placenta, the piglets heard myself and Sasha in there, and they started crying out to eat. And she thought we were hurting her new piglet, not realizing that it was dead. And so she actually got up. It's the first that she's gotten up in over 24 hours, and kind of started biting on the shovel a little bit. So she kind of went around in a circle, and I scooted a lot of it down. And I was telling Sasha, just kind of slide it under the bottom of her pin gate. But Sasha doesn't always listen that well. And he put it over into the corner, and he's like, there's a gap there. I said, there's a gap under the whole door. But by this time she turned around and she was grabbing a hold of the shovel again, and it got her really worked up. So there was no way that we were going to do a feeding with her. So I went ahead and did a hand feeding with them. Although she did calm down, and while I was gone to go get the milk and to heat it up. And she was kind of grunting. They have this kind of grunt that says kind of come and eat, come and eat. But I think I'm going to hand feed all through the night because she is just really exhausted, and I'm sure that the hormones are kind of going up and down, up and down. So I just want to give her a break, and it'll be a little bit harder on me because I'll have to get up about every 2.5 hours and go feed them. But the feeding goes pretty quickly because they suck it down. And I'll just increase by 1 milliliter each time I feed them through the night. So the first 2 nights I probably got 4 or 5 hours of sleep, but last night, because I went out there to do my shift, and then she was delivering, I was out there all night. So basically I had about 3 hours sleep. I got 2 before she delivered, and I got 1 during the day, and that's it. So pretty exhausted. I'm glad to see that she's delivered the stillborns at least, and the placentas, which means that they're not inside of her, that they won't create an infection. The piglets, a number of them are kind of small. There's a couple big ones, and then there's some that are almost half the size. But those 12 seem to be like they're doing really well. They're all eating. They didn't have enough strength to suckle from her, but I'm hoping that through the night and giving them this specialized milk with the condensed milk and then regular milk and water, that it'll put some energy into them, because they were getting a little bit lethargic because they hadn't eaten and they weren't getting any milk from her. So anyway, we'll watch her tomorrow and see if there's any hormone rushes like we had with Lulu, and if so, we'll kind of get not a tranquilizer, but something that just calms her down, and I'll go ahead and continue to hand feed. But we'll see how she's doing. She's been pretty good so far, just a real sweetie through the whole process, except for this last stillborn, thinking it was being hurt. So just pray for us, as we go through this and we're all tired. I've kind of lost my patience with the boys a couple times today because they're just, I don't know, they're on me every time I turn around. I tried to sit out front and have 10 minutes of quiet peace, and I got interrupted several times. And finally one of the guys was like, are you going to get the eggs? Because I gathered the eggs. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to get the eggs. He came back through and he says, well, I'm going to go get the eggs. And I said, no, I told you I was going to get the eggs. And this guy tends to insert himself. So at this point, it didn't matter if I wanted him to help me out or not. It's got to be a no because of this addictive behavior that we're trying, this cycle that he's in that we're trying to break. So anyway, hopefully the guys will get some sleep and they'll relax a little bit. And I was trying to think ducks on June bugs or something like that. One of those idioms that somebody's just right there like a helicopter floating around you. It's just like, stand back, get away. Give me a little bit of breathing space. But anyway, Dolly, I think, is doing fine now. The piglets all seem to be doing really well. Because some of them are very small, we'll probably take a couple of extra days to bring them in and out once they do start feeding off of her, just to make sure that she doesn't accidentally step on them or roll on them or anything like that, because they are a little bit small. But 12 good little piglets. Unfortunately, we lost the 4 others, but occasionally we do have stillborn. But never a situation like this with so many placentas. That's just really, really crazy. So probably in a day or two, I'll do the video that I was planning to do that talks about the news and kind of what we've been up to and the different things that we're taking care of and how we're helping people. But I'm afraid I don't have the energy right now. So anyway, keep us in prayer. Thank you for everybody who was asking about Dolly and her piglets.